Hey, my name's Kate, and welcome to my fantasy channel, where I make all kinds of fantasy crafts and armor and fantasy outfits and all sorts of fun stuff like that, except this time for my first ever episode, I watched Fallout, and now I made this. Personally, I think the ghoul would be very proud of me. So, if you want to learn how to make something like this beauty by yourself, out of a Nerf gun and trash, stick around. Maybe you'll see something you like. I hope you'll see something you like. I promise I'll make fantasy stuff in the future, but for now, Fallout has a chokehold on me. Yeah, let's do it! Welcome, survivors of the Nerfocalypse. Nerfocalypse. Nerfocalypse to my craft room. So here I have assembled a collection of the finest remnants of childhood battles, as well as, a few other things that I found at thrift stores. And we're gonna cut them apart together, so this should be fun. That's what we're working with. Alright, so I think this is the main man we're going to be working with here. So I'm not going to be destroying this one too much, but more so like using it as a base to add other stuff onto. So we're going to kind of make like a Franken gun. Yeah. No destroying this one yet. Emphasis on yet. Wow, hello, welcome to my voiceover. So we are starting with getting rid of all of the raised writing on the Nerf blaster, of which there is no small amount. So this is a lengthy process. I go back and forth between using an oscillating saw thing, which is from Ryobi, as well as sandpaper of multiple different grits. Also, make sure to wear a mask because you don't want to be breathing in any more plastic dust than you have to. And this plastic dust is going to be absolutely everywhere. So we're gonna have to give it a thorough cleaning. Alright, so now you're going to want to take your blaster and give it a lovingly tender bath because it is very dirty. Basically just wipe it down with a washcloth. Or as much off as you feel like doing. The rest will probably fall off at some point. And whatever you miss will just be free weathering, so that's cool too. So, one of the cooler things about Nerf guns is they make them super easy to destroy. They all come with a panel of screws on one side of them that you can undo and take them apart, and you get lots of neat little trinkets like this out of that. Which you can make into other things. So I'm gonna do that. Sorry, I didn't realize he was in the way. So this process starts with painstakingly removing every single screw. And after you've taken all those little screws out, you can do the fun part where you get to pull it apart. Watch out for flying bits of plastic. Little bits and bobs like this will just fall off. Save that for later. Oh, bye screw. That's another little pro tip for you. Use safety glasses before you launch the plastic bit into your eyeball. Probably help you out in the long run. Okay, so at this point in your creative process, you should have created a fairly sufficient graveyard of dead Nerf guns that you have massacred and discombobulated the body parts of. So now we can start gluing it and nailing it, screwing it back together into something that vaguely resembles something out of a video game. So we're gonna do that. It's my favorite part. You get to basically just take little pieces like this and like this, especially because they're all the same brand. You can kind of just like fit them together and they stay. Who knew? Look, it's already looking vaguely like a little scope. It's gonna take some modification, but it'll get there. So all I'm doing with this is just taking a glue gun and some screws and fitting pieces together where I think they would look best, and I'm not afraid to use a lot of glue. So as you can see, we have attached this guy on safe and sound with some self-tapping screws and hot glue. So it's not coming off. So got a very long and unbreakable gun. And we can start attaching other stuff to it. The important thing to remember is to always work outwards with these things, because sometimes once you've attached something, you can't really undo it when you add other shit on. So just try to have like the smallest bit of forethought, and it'll help you out in the long run. Okay, so my wonderful boyfriend helped me chop up this old lantern thing that I thrifted, and now it's mounted to the blaster, and I think it looks pretty cool. Yeah, so I'm gonna figure out what goes on next, and I will hopefully actually show you that, because it doesn't involve metal sparks flying in my parking lot. Okay, so the next challenge is to get this piece mounted on this gun, probably somewhere right here. This is what we got. It's kind of shoddily put on there, but we're gonna run with it. And I think it's looking pretty cool. I'm gonna try to get something to attach to those pipes off the top to that little nub that's coming off of the little round thing. And we'll see how that goes. And then I'm just gonna add a whole bunch of other stuff to it, and I will see you guys after I do that. So oops, I added the scope piece and a little brace for it off camera. So now I'm going in with a heat gun, and I'm gonna go ahead and shape those very dense plastic bits to get them to fit into this little rotary piece that I attached to the blaster. I'm also going to attach a whole bunch of other little plastic pieces from different modeling kits to this circular bit here, and attach it using CA glue. I think it just gives it a more like sci-fi robust look, like it's actually meant to fit together and not like the pieces are just randomly slapped together. So I'm going in here with more pieces from a modeling kit, which happen to fit perfectly on top of that rotary piece. But first I have to bend it into shape using my heat gun, so you can see I did that there. And I just go ahead and attach it with a self-tapping screw and then also some glue just to hold it in place. Lastly, for this little piece here, I am just attaching some claw-like pieces from my scrap bin to make it all look like it has a functional purpose. That's a huge part of building these things, is making sure everything looks like they would go together. And then just to cover up a seam here, I put together a whole bunch of other random pieces of plastic until it looked cool enough to make me happy. I highly recommend going to your local thrift store and finding any sort of old robotics kits or model kits such as Gundams, or cars or planes, and just harvest all those pieces, because you never know when you might be able to use them. Hi. Hello. It's been a few days and I've added more than a little bit to the gun, off camera, as one does. But that's okay. We're learning this whole YouTube thing. And so today we're going to be painting it, first masking it with glue tape in the spots I don't want to get paint on. And then I'm just going to send it with the painting. I'm not really sure what I'm doing with that yet, but we're going to figure it out as we go. Yeah. So let's do that. Wow, it's my favorite part of the process. We are outside in front of all of my neighbors who live very close to me spray painting this thing. I'm first hitting it with a coat of matte flat black, which is a tongue twister. And then I am also going to finish it with a clear top coat, which you can see here, just for a layer of protection. I also took a variety of oranges and browns and gunmetal gray and just did a very light touch and spritzed that all over the blaster to do some base weathering effects. Next time I speak to you, which will be in a few seconds, I'll do some more advanced weathering, but this is just a very basic start and undercoat for now. Hi, welcome back to day 3 of working on this Nerf blaster, or 3-ish. It's been some amount of time for sure. But basically it has had 24 hours now to dry after its initial round of spray paint. And I think it's looking pretty cool. There's still a ton of weathering to go, but is what we got so far. We got the black base coat as well as some brown highlights to make it look dirty, and then there's also little speckled bits all throughout the piece. So today's plan is to add on a bit more weathering to this blaster, and that's going to come primarily today in the form of these little gray scratches or silver scratches. That is just going to be on all of the raised surfaces of the blaster. So wherever it would get put down or like brushed up against something and might lose paint over time naturally, that's where we're going to be putting it. So let's do that. So I'm going in with just a ton of metallic spray paint, which I sprayed outside, into this paint lid thing. And I'm just going to use some old brushes and gently go around all of the parts that would naturally pick up a lot of weathering to give this what my good friend Joey calls dino damage. It makes it look just a little bit more realistic. All the points that would typically wear down during use will have a touch of this silver paint to look like the black is just flecking off over time, which for an apocalyptic weapon is very important. It's kind of a lengthy process, but it's definitely one of my favorite parts. Only tip I have is just to go slow and try not to overdo it because it can be overdone very quickly, and you'll just feel like a little silly goose when your entire product is covered in silver. This is one of my favorite parts here. I figured that whoever is using this would be pretty heavy on this little rotary piece, so I did a thumb mark on there to make it look like it's been thoroughly loved. And here's what it's looking like so far. Got a good bit on the bottom because that's where it would naturally be set down. You can also see little bits of brown from my spray painting there yesterday. Next up is some baking soda, which I just put into the same paint tray and mixed it up with a good bit of brown. And this is going to create a very, very nice dirt-like texture, which will stick and dry in all of the little crevices that I put it into. Now, I was a little bit silly, and I did this too early in the process. I was way too ambitious with it, and a lot of it later got covered up, but it did add a very nice undercoat of grime and nastiness, which I think is very well suited for the apocalypse. You can see it here wedged into all the little crevices that I could find. I wanted this thing to be gross. Next up is my airbrush. I just put a little bit of just basic flat black into there, and any sort of recessed area, I just put a little bit of black into it to make it look like oil and grime is just built up over years and years of use. I really, really like how this technique really brings out the lighter areas and sets certain areas into darkness, but it also adds a very natural effect to the whole piece. Alright, we're starting with my favorite part of the whole weathering process. I'm using this Modern Masters Rust Kit, and going in with the first step, which is just layering on the primer. It's already this really nice orange color, but it later uses an activator and iron paint to give it an actual real rust coating. I put this anywhere I felt like it might get wet if it was just left out in the elements for years and years, which was my goal with this piece. You can just see me layering on the iron paint here, which will later be oxidized with this spray. I just sprayed on a very, very thick coating of this and let it sit for 2 or 3 hours until everything fully developed. So this gave an overall really, really nice rust patina with a beautiful color gradient that I think is just very, very convincing as to what this might look like in the Fallout world. Later on, I added a orange marker on the end of the blaster to signify that it is in fact a Nerf gun and not the real weapon, just for safety purposes. Let's roll the beauty shots. Here's this thing in its completed glory. I'm super stoked with how it came out, and I can't wait to make more things from this world. I definitely want to plan for Wasteland Weekend in the future or similar events, so maybe you'll see more of that from me. In the meantime, please like and subscribe. It would really help me out and help me get this channel off the ground. So thank you guys for tuning in for my first video, and I'll catch you in the next one.